What's going on, fight fans? Good to have you with us for this MMA Live Extra. I'm John Anik, and what a weekend it was in Houston, Texas. The UFC Fan Expo, once again, a resounding success, and the capstone on the entire weekend, of course, was UFC 136. Your main event, lightweight champion Frankie Edgar putting the gold on the line against a familiar foe in Gray Maynard. Let's get you the highlight. And the first round in this one played out similarly to the second fight between these two guys, which came back on New Year's Day. Maynard dominating the early action, rocked Edgar a few times, and it appeared that Frankie might actually get finished, but Edgar once again would stage a furious comeback, and in the fourth round, he showed what great champions are made of, gets the TKO of Maynard, hands the bully his first career loss. Earlier this week, Alex Loeb caught up with Edgar, asked him about that first round.
When it was happening in that first round, I was thinking to myself, like, man, I can't believe this is happening again. But, I was able to bounce back last time, so, I had confidence that I was going to be able to do it this time.
I was going to say, compare how you felt, or at least your mindset, between the first two rounds in this fight and the first two rounds on New Year's Day. Were you at least somewhat prepared this time for a rough round one, or did it catch you off guard?
I knew he comes out strong. I knew, he's got powerful hands, especially early in the fight. So I think I was a little more ready for it this time around.
Your chin is just obviously a huge weapon. How much confidence does that give you, knowing you can have that going up against the best fighters in the division? You don't really have to worry about that.
Yeah, it definitely gives me confidence knowing that I could take a shot, but I'd much rather not get hit, to be honest. But it's a good tool to have.
You were able to finish off Gray the first time he's ever been stopped, and your first finish since December of 2009. Meanwhile, a guy like GSP has been criticized for not finishing fights. How important was it for you to get that done and kind of avoid that label?
Yeah, I'm always in there trying to look for finishes. But the level we're at, the guys are fighting. It's not always so easy to come by. You see Anderson in there doing it time and time again. John Jones, it's definitely a testament to them. But it was sweet to get the finish for sure.
Much has been made of the fact that you were a Toms River native. You had the whole Jersey Shore crew in the crowd to support you, Snooki, and the situation on hand. It seems like all of Jersey is behind you. What was the reception like when you finally returned home?
It was great. I got to see my friends and family. I feel like every time I go and fight and I come back, I got some more fans. So my house has been crazy this week. It's kind of like a revolving door, people in and out, giving me congratulations. It's been a great homecoming.
You fought Gray Maynard now 3 times, BJ Penn twice, both high-level fighters. What's been your toughest fight to date?
I have to say probably the fights with Gray, just because of the trouble I was in the first rounds. BJ obviously he possessed a lot of skills on a lot of different dangerous points, but Gray was able to hurt me.
Ben Henderson will be taking on Clay Guida down the road in November. Gilbert Melendez is the Strikeforce champion. Of those guys, who do you think would be your toughest test?
I don't know. I really don't look at fights like that. I think they both, all three of them possess, unique skills and a different skill set. But, I'm just looking to fight the biggest fights and the fight the UFC wants to see and the fans want to see. If
you had to fight, or if you had to choose Henderson, Guida, or Melendez, which one would you want to face next?
Let's put him in a hat and I'll pull it out, because it doesn't matter to me. I'll fight whoever.
Frankie, Gilbert Melendez is the Strikeforce champion. He said he wants to fight you. What do you think about that?
The best want to fight the best. He wants this UFC strap. I happen to be the guy that holds it. So, I don't take anything personal. He's considered one of the top guys in the world, and he wants to fight the best. Just so happens I'm the best.
People keep asking you for if you can move down to 145. Dana White even made a comment about it, but you seem content fighting at lightweight. How much would a fight with Jose Aldo interest you?
It would interest me just because the magnitude of it all. Champion versus champion. Possibly the opportunity to hold 2 belts. But everything's got to work out. We got to talk to Dana and Lorenzo and my team and see what happens and see what the best option is for all of us.
And speaking of Dana, he was quoted as saying you're now the #2 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I know you don't put too much stock into that kind of stuff, but how nice is it to hear the UFC prez dish out a compliment like that?
It's always nice, getting recognized for your achievements, especially when it's, your boss. So I was happy to hear that, but you know, it's just opinion-based. That whole pound-for-pound ranking is all opinion-based. Depends on who you talk to. But, you know, just to be mentioned among those names, you know, whatever number I am is an honor.
As the viewers can obviously see, you're a little bit swollen there under the eye, a little bit beat up. What kind of timetable do you expect for a return?
I don't know when I'm going to get back in there. You know, definitely, you know, when they want me, I think I'll be ready. I'm a little banged up, not too bad. Might have to get my nose looked at, but, you know, for the most part, I should be back in the gym, you know, within a week or two.
Let's talk about the MMA rumor mill for a second. Some thoughts, possibly talk about you fighting on Fox in the first quarter of the year. How do you feel about fighting on Fox as opposed to a pay-per-view?
I think fighting on Fox would be awesome. I mean, Fox is in, you know, a lot of homes. You're definitely gonna be a lot of eyes are gonna be watching you. I think it's an opportunity I wouldn't want to pass up.
You're definitely starting to build a legacy here, Frankie. What kind of legacy do you want to leave in the MMA world?
The legacy I want to leave, you know, I really don't think I put too much thought into it. I just want people to look back and say, you know, this guy, he, you know, he's one of the toughest guys out there. He fought everybody, wasn't scared to fight anybody, and, you know, left his mark.
All right, we appreciate your time, Frankie, and congratulations again.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Frankie Edgar now unbeaten over his last 7, dating to his only loss, which came to Maynard back in 2008. His last 5 includes 2 dominating victories over B.J. Penn, the man many consider to be the greatest lightweight of all time. Perhaps that distinction should now belong to New Jersey's finest, Frankie Edgar. All right, also part of the fair at UFC 136, a middleweight title eliminator between Chael Sonnen and Brian Stann. Those expecting a close competitive fight, well, you didn't get it. Total domination for Sonnen. Stann unable to stop Chael's vaunted double-leg takedown. No ring rush whatsoever for the former #1 contender. Sonnen looked outstanding, and in the second round, Sonnen locks in on the arm triangle choke, good for his first submission victory since 2007. And now joining us here on MMA Live, it's always a pleasure to be joined by the consensus #1 middleweight contender in the UFC. He is Chael Sonnen. So, Chael, congratulations on the win. Little trouble for you in halting Brian Stann's momentum. Were you expecting a tougher fight?
Well, you know, sometimes fights, you never know what's going to happen out there, and I certainly don't want to act as though that was an easy match. But, you know, look, things went well, and if you're in Brian's shoes, you know, what are you going to do? If you can't breathe, you have to tap out. I don't know that it shows which one of us is better, but for that night, I was able to catch him in a position and into the match.
Chael, not sure if you're someone who goes back and immediately watches your fights thereafter, but what was your overall level of satisfaction with your performance given the layoff and given that you really did have to reacquaint yourself with the lights and everything that goes into fighting in the octagon?
You know, John, it was a rough experience. It really was. It was one of those things where, more than anything, I was just happy to get it behind me. You know, I went through the process as best as I could remember how to do it. I followed all the steps. But overall, it was just a miserable experience, and I'm glad it's done.
All right, well, you called out your rival Anderson Silva in your post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, one of the more memorable post-fight interviews we've ever seen. How confident are you, though, that the fight will happen on Super Bowl weekend as you hope?
Well, I'm 100% confident that I will show up, and I'm fairly confident that he won't. You know, look, I challenge a guy. He has his handlers put out an immediate statement saying they don't want the fight. This is the story of Anderson Silva's life. He's the Mike Tyson of MMA. He likes to talk tough, look tough, sit there and act tough, and as soon as you put a finger in the bully's chest, he cowers down pretty darn quick. I issue a challenge to Anderson Silva. If the role was reversed, John, I'd have come over that apron and I'd have whipped him right there in Houston, Texas. I'd say, Anderson, there's no need to wait. You want some of me? You got it. And, of course, he just sits there and puts his head down in his hands. I have no confidence that he'll do the fight. He's going to take the easiest fights that he can find, and he's going to tell the media that he wants the hardest fights out there. He tells Dana White he wants the biggest fights out there, John. There's no bigger fight than our rematch, and you don't hear my name coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, you've never heard your name coming out of his mouth, and no doubt about it, you'd think Anderson would have something to prove given the beating that he took from you the first time around. All right, UFC middleweight contender Chael Sonnen, we very much appreciate your time as always, and I hope we'll see you here in Bristol next week. All right, well, as we put a bow on UFC 136, quickly want to touch on the co-main event as Jose Aldo retains his UFC featherweight championship with a unanimous decision victory over Kenny Florian. And now for more on that, we welcome in our good friend, our ESPN.com mixed martial arts insider, Franklin McNeil. Franklin, good to talk to you. So Aldo remains the king at 145. What did you make of the champion's performance?
I thought he had a good performance. I thought Aldo came in there with a fight plan. Obviously, he did not want to go to the ground with Kenny, and he kept some good distance, and he picked up his pace as the fight went on. I thought Florian started strong, and Aldo weathered that storm.
Nice adjustments made by the champion. Now, Franklin, on the losing end in a title fight once again, our good friend Kenny Florian. How do you compare this effort to his past efforts in championship fights?
I thought Kenny put on a very, very good performance. I thought Kenny, in every way, he answered all these questions about he doesn't rise to the top in the big fights. He did. Most people had him losing 4 of the 5 rounds. I had him losing 3 of the rounds. I thought going into the final round, it was anyone's fight. Whoever won that last round would win the fight. I thought Kenny came out strong. He did have some difficulty with Aldo's pressure as the fight went on, but I thought overall Kenny definitely put his all into the fight. I'm sure there are certain minor things he would have done differently to get that fight to the ground, but other than that, I just look, the guy fought his heart out, and I still think he's one of the top featherweights in the world.
And now Florian's going to take some time to sort of assess his situation. Franklin, what % chance is there that Kenny Florian will retire on the heels of that performance?
I'll say 40. I just think there's still a lot of fight in Kenny. Yes, he's getting older. He's 35. He's got to be disappointed. I think right now his emotions are really down. But when he looks back, I just think if he stays at featherweight, I think if he stays at featherweight, I can see Kenny fighting his way back in the next year or so. Getting back in that title contention. And I think Kenny is as good as anyone in that featherweight division, if not better.
All right, great insight there from Franklin McNeil, ESPN.com's mixed martial arts insider. F-Mac, we appreciate the time. We'll see you here in Bristol soon.
Okay, John.
All right, and that'll do it for this MMA Live Extra. I'm John Anik. We will have a full episode for you next week on both ESPN UK and ESPN2. Until then, enjoy the fights. And as always, don't text and drive. We'll see you.